$50. So I feel like collaborative is a spirit, like this, like it's more of a cognitive thing, like you want to try to do this together. And so I'm excited to see different ways that that legally can be done.
Okay, so hearing Naomi and hearing you, this sounds like a no-brainer in a way that we should approach the dissolution of the marital bond if it's to be dissolved. I know that Daniel sees individuals and couples both in a therapeutic context and in a, is it ecclesiastical? Clerical,
Yeah, right.
whatever,
Ecclesiastical. Right.
No disrespect
Sure.
to the caller, context. So I'm very, very curious to hear what you think as someone who watches people together but also watches them coming apart, and after that, what you think. I'm not asking for your legal advice, but
Good,
you know.
that's a good thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
that we'll divide that here, yeah.
Well, I guess I'm less excited about collaborative divorce because I think it's an idea that makes sense in theory, and it sounds right. But what I have seen is that children of it, look, without children, if two people want to divorce and go collaborative, that's cool. But the thing is that children, I think, get really confused in overly friendly divorces. And I think it leads to, I think, more abandonment fears is what I've seen, and mistrust, because I think that an overly friendly divorce, the child's world really doesn't make sense. Why aren't mom and dad together? They seem to like each other, they seem to get along and so forth. And then I think there's a re-traumatizing aspect, especially when couples get together for holidays or for birthdays or whatever, or family dinners and so forth, because I think children will always have the wish that the parents will get back together, and that's always then dashed. And I think that it creates a lot of confusion, and I think the reasons for the divorce then are hidden and murky, and it's all obfuscation, and I think children don't know what to do with that.
As you talked, I just, my kids watch The Parent Trap over and over and over, which involves, I mean, there's it's the complete fantasy that, and when they watched it, the complete fantasy is that parents who've been divorced of these two twins are going to come back together and reunite and live happily ever after. And they watched it with friends of theirs from divorced families, and their friends from divorced families had exactly that impression that, oh gosh, maybe they will, and it was somewhat destructive for them.
I guess I should say that it is not, I don't think it's necessarily even a given that as we move forward into the kind of society that was discussed at the first panel, and I think Daniel mentioned kind of offhandedly, it is not necessarily so, I believe, that marriage without children should be even viewed legally as a comparable institution to marriage with children. Obviously, we talk about them very distinctly when we talk about social benefits and psychological benefits and so forth, or potential harms to something like a collaborative approach gone wrong. But I don't know what you think about this. I wouldn't be surprised if down the line, with changes in legislation and changes in policy, if the distinction becomes between marriage and not marriage, as opposed to family units with children and family units without children. That's just my kind of off-the-cuff speculation.
Let me say, there are proposals to have two sort of two-track divorce.
Yes.
Yes. Among others, Bill Galston has suggested that there be two tracks. That, for example, if there are children, that there has to be a longer waiting period. So making it harder to get divorced if children are involved as a way, I think, of forcing the parents to reconsider the decision.
Well, yeah. That's funny. That reminds me. I was talking earlier before the panel with Daniel about something that exists in the cobwebs of my brain that, for all I know, exists in 15 states by now. That at least in the late 90s, the Louisiana legislature, I think, was trying to push forth a bill on a two-track marriage, but it was ex ante. It was called covenant marriage. That was basically an attempt to.
Only 3 states.
It exists in 3 states. This, as I understand it, is an opt-in civil marriage union that imposes greater barriers to divorce something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's an attempt, I guess, to replicate the religious covenant structure within the civil realm, right? Is that
It,
sort of what
essentially, it brings back fault divorce for the people who opt into it.
Okay.
And so it essentially says you pretty much agree you will not get divorced unless there is fault. Now, if you can prove fault, then
that and 250, you know.
Yes,
yeah.
right.
But I'm interested to what you're saying about the waiting period, the tracks, because I think, Daniel, your focus being on the kids of
Right.
these situations,